Hello there, good morning, and welcome to GH Today here on GHOne Television. My name is Joshua Kodjo Mensah. It's the 3rd of April 2025, the day that a lot of people will be excited about because it's the day where you can officially say that E-levy is a thing of the past. So in the course of the show this morning, I would like to hear from you how you feel about the fact that you do not have to pay E-levy again, and I will also touch on some other critical issues that really are making the rounds in the country. There's so much in terms of governance issues, talking about security. We've also heard from Reverend John and Tim Kodjo, and the comments that he's made, the allegations he's made. We'll give you an update on that Med situation where he says, well, some flights are very suspicious and they found their way into the country. We have an update on that particular development. We'll also be telling you about what is happening in the courts pretty soon. But you're a big part of the conversation. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook, on X, and on YouTube. So do join us with your thoughts, your comments, your views, and contributions. And remember, later on, like I said, we would like to also hear from you. Welcome to the show. We apologize for the late start of the program today, but I mean, there's so much that you cannot afford to miss. Do have a wonderful experience with me here on the show, and soon we'll get into the conversations. Our guests are also here, so we'll get into the conversation and then bring you their thoughts on these raging issues. But let's quickly dash to the courts and bring you court today. So our Legal Affairs Bureau Chief, Murtala Inusa, has joined me with court today. Murtala, good morning.
A man with a spicy voice. Good morning.
I'm wondering which spice you're talking about.
I'll tell you behind the scenes.
I hope you're doing well.
I'm great. How about you?
I'm well. I'm well.
There's been a lot of hangover we are trying to get over. Yeah, the court has been busy. You note that cases that were supposed to come on the 1st of April was holiday.
Yeah.
All of them will have to come out when normal business began. So yesterday there were a lot of action at the court. But let's zoom straight into the action. Yesterday I did mention that the case involving Lil Wayne and Mensah in court yesterday. They were supposed to have come to court on the 1st of April,
right.
But because it was holiday, the rules are clear that once it's a holiday, the following day you need to make an appearance at the court. That's Lil Wayne on the far corner there with the phone, leaving the premises at one of the gates. But what was expected yesterday was that the parties were supposed to come to court, and in fact, on the 1st of April, to bring their terms of settlement. They have agreed for an out-of-court settlement. So they were supposed to have filed their terms for it to be adopted as a consent judgment. However, because of the holiday, there was no show. Yesterday, they only came for a date, and on the 14th of April, they are expected back in court. It was only the lawyers who appeared yesterday for the date. So on the 14th of April, the parties will be back hoping that that is Mata and Kuma, and then the lawyers at the last court sitting before yesterday. So on April 14, this case is back, and they will know what the outcome of the terms of settlement has been. Absolutely
interesting.
Ahmed Swali, yes. So Daniel Corantin Owusu. Yesterday, he also made an appearance at the circuit court, in fact, the district court, and Medina. And what did happen was that at the last court, when he made his first appearance in March 19, there was a count. There was a provisional charge of murder. Yesterday, police prosecuted, revised, or amended the charge. So yesterday, fresh charge sheet was brought, and guess what? Additional counts, abetment was added to that. So now he's no more on the provisional charge of murder, but also abetment to murder.
Right.
And when that happens, the investigation document and then the case docket will have to go to the office of the Attorney General once investigations are concluded for AG's advice on that. However, the lawyers yesterday made an application for bail for the second time, but of course, the court turned it down. It was refused. So as we speak, he's back in lawful custody, and sometime in 24th of April, he's back in court. But what is clear is also that tomorrow, the lawyers have already gone to the High Court seeking for bail, and that is the appropriate forum in relation to the charge that has been, provisional charge that has been leveled against him, to go and seek for bail. So tomorrow, we'll follow that up. But what is clear is that yesterday he was in court, the charge sheet was amended, and fresh charges were preferred against him in that regard. So that's one thing in relation to the Ahmed Swallow suspect who was arrested.
Okay, so let's talk about the Abisim murder issue.
Richard Appiah, once upon a time a footballer. If you see him take tall. Yesterday I was saying that if this guy partners Samenyo, we'll have a lot of goals in the Black Stars. Absolutely. Yeah. And here, there he goes, the man in your white. So allegedly, he's alleged to have killed 2 teenagers, chopped the body part and stored them in the refrigerator. The trial is yet to start, and this is one of the cases that the new jury reform is expected to affect. It hasn't started yet, so the next time, yesterday, they were in court, but of course, the case had to be adjourned to some later date, and what is expected is that he will select his jurors at the next court sitting once the new setup is ready, and then the trial will begin from there. So Richard Appiah yesterday was in court. He's still in lawful custody, but of course, there was no show when the case was called yesterday. So it's been adjourned. We'll follow that up closely. And yesterday, one of the cases that a lot of people were looking out for was in relation to the interlocutory injunction that Vincent Ekwasefwa filed. And yesterday, if you look at the document that we just shown, the hearing date was yesterday, 2nd April. That was yesterday. But unfortunately, yesterday there was no show. It didn't happen. And the understanding is that a new date will be fixed for the hearing of that interlocutory injunction.
And that is for the removal of the CJ.
The petition is seeking to stop the president for initiating processes. What the applicant in the matter contend was that before petitions are referred to the Council of State, a Chief Justice ought to have been given the opportunity to comment, to respond to that. And that was not done before we saw the statement. So we think that if you look at the Constitution, specifically Article 146 and its related provisions, the president was wrong. So the Supreme Court should injunct the process, injunct the president at such time that his substantive matter is dealt with, and then everybody will be clear in his or her mind where the whole issue will be. So that case, we are being told that a new date would be fixed. So these are some of the things that took place yesterday in courts.
Right. Now, what are we to look forward to?
That controversial disputed parliamentary seats. Tema Central, Ablikuma North, and Ablikuma North. The only constituency that you have
with two MPs who are not in parliament.
One constituency, MPs Debre. And you know one funny thing about that particular. So we have neighbors from both candidates. All of them saying thank you to the constituent for electing them to be members of parliament. So Okankwe Central is also in the mix. Then Techiman South, all of them. We know the EC had already declared 3. Following the order of the High Court for them to go and collate the outstanding seats. And that order from the High Court, Justice for Simba, is what the NDC is challenging at the Supreme Court. That mandamus application, that word that became a household word and a lot of, so it's a compelling order, which the court compelled the EC to go and perform its constitutional duty. And the EC has done that, except the Ablikuma, which is still pending. The NDC disagree with that. So today, they'll be before the Supreme Court, to deal with the issue. So that is the expectation. And then, the ex-PPA boss, Ajenim Boateng Ejie, corruption and corruption-related activities. And this is a case that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is prosecuting. And as we speak, the trial had not started yet. Remember that not too long ago, the charges against him and the in-law, the charges were withdrawn, and new charge sheet was filed. And in relation to the new charge sheet that was filed, it is only Ajenim Ejie Boateng who is facing charges. Before Justice Marie Louise Simmons, yesterday they came on. It is expected to come today, but my understanding is that the case would have to be started, or the trial would effectively start in the new legal year, hopefully. So that one is a very long time to come. So this case also yesterday, it came up in court, or we're expecting that to also happen today, but the indication is that it will not happen. Then the last one that I have for you is Professor Adjei, the former Auditor General boss, and then General Mosquito Johnson Esiedun-Ketia. And this matter is in relation to some defamation case that Professor Adjei initiated as far back as in 2018, and that case is still pending. What is clear, the last court sitting, lawyers of General Mosquito or Johnson Esiedun-Ketia want an opportunity to call one necessary witness that when they were filing their pre-trial processes, they omitted. And so the court did grant that particular opportunity for them to include that particular witness, where they tag a necessary witness which will help them advance their case in court. But it came with a cost. 3,000 Ghana cedis was awarded against the national chairman of the NDC in relation. It happens in court when you are supposed to file certain processes and you do not file within time, or you do not file as and when you were supposed to file, or you are supposed to file. The court can it's a discretionary remedy, or power given to the court, and then 3,000 Ghana cedis was awarded today. That is expected to come out today, and we'll see the kind of witness. In fact, the testimony of the witness by way of this case. The hearing had already started, so we expect to see more of that before Justice Audrey Koku Vite. So that's what these are some of the cases that we do expect in court by way of court today.
Interesting. Mutala, thank you so much. And we'll be looking forward to all these cases that we've talked about, but we'll leave you to now do justice.
I wish you all the best, you and your guests.
You too. Do have a wonderful day. So that's Mutala Inusa bringing us court today here on J Today. I'll go for a quick break. When we return, we'll get into the conversations for the morning. With us here on today on GHOne television is your best way to wake up in the morning. So like I said earlier, today being the 3rd of April is the day that E-levy, betting tax and all those others are now officially repealed, and so you do not have to pay for E-levy if you are to send any money or do any transfers today. And for the investors, you don't have to pay that percentage on your earnings in terms of your winnings. But that's the good news. And let me read to you a statement from the Ghana Revenue Authority, because a lot of you were quite pessimistic, asking, okay, so how will this kick in even after the president gives his assent? Earlier, we heard of the fact that the GRA had to issue directive to the MNOs for them to be able to withdraw and everything. Well, that on your screens now is the statement from the Ghana Revenue Authority, which says that we wish to inform you of that the President of the Republic of Ghana has assented to the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, and the Electronic Transfer Levy Amendment Act 2022, Act 1089, which abolishes the 1% E-levy. This is expected to take effect from today, 2nd April 2025. That was yesterday. In accordance with our previous communication regarding implementation guidelines, this letter serves as formal authorization for you to proceed with the deployment of the no-charge configuration on your platforms. Now, we wish to communicate the following guidelines. 1. The GRA Electronic Transfer Levy Management and Assurance System will automatically return a no charge on all transactions posted to it by entities from midnight. Charging entities must cease applying the 1% E-levy from midnight on all their channels. Charging entities must immediately process refunds for any E-levy amounts deducted from customers effective today, 2nd April 2025. So this is where I have a bit of contention. So does that mean that for those of us who did transfers yesterday and had to pay E-levy, there will be refund for that? It looks like that's what the statement is saying here. So if you incurred costs yesterday because it came into force on the 2nd of April, I look forward to that refund. And entities are to establish an expedited refund process to handle such cases promptly and maintain proper documentation of all refunds processed. Reports of such refunds must be submitted to the GRA. And the 4th is that charging entities are to take the necessary steps to file and pay all outstanding E-levy charged and collected on all transactions that occurred before 2nd April 2025. And so officially, I tried sending money this morning. In fact, I sent some money. And then I realized that the tax component was completely zero. And that was an interesting one, because I sent over the 100 cedis, and 0% tax. So E-levy is officially gone. So we can say bye-bye to E-levy, because it's one of the things that both the NPP and the NDC agreed to in the lead up to the 2024 general election. So finally, I mean, yesterday you could see the smile on the face of the president when he said, E-levy repealed, promise delivered. And so that's where we stand now. And investors, those involved in betting and all of that, you don't have to pay betting tax, the famous betting tax, as the president assented to the bill that repeals that. So yes, we are told that those of you who have decided not to marry because of financial constraints, now you can save your E-levy and then you can get married. And we'll be looking forward to all of that. I know some people in this establishment who would take advantage of the E-levy to get married. But that's where we are, and it's an interesting one. And later on in the show, I'll also be seeking your thoughts on that. After it, have you been charged by your MNO? Are you seeing any charges? Has there been any refund whatsoever? If you've received a message that says because you paid E-levy yesterday, there's this amount refunded to your account, I'd like to hear all of those from you. And so when we do activate the phone lines, you just join me and then let me know your thoughts. But let's get back into the conversations this morning. In studio, I have Hamza Suini. He's a member of the NDC communications team. Hamza, good morning.
Good morning, my brother, and good morning to our cherished viewers out there.
Right. So the president says promise delivered. So for you as a member of the NDC, knowing that what you promised, what you campaigned for, has actually come to fruition? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel proud and quite confident in relation to the many other promises that we presented today. So I get the sense that His Excellency the President and his government is undoubtedly committed to the promises we sold to the Ghanaian people.
Right.
And so for many of us, it is an inspiration to even want to serve him more and champion his cause as President of the Republic of Ghana. So clearly, it's a moment for us all to be proud and be hopeful that many other promises will fall in place with time.
We're told that it was something that you couldn't do. Your opponent said, "Oh, don't mind them. They think it's easy. When they get there, we'll see."
And that is why I'm surprised in your introductory remarks when you sought to create the impression that indeed what happened was a campaign promise of both the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress. But you see, it is not just about churning out promises. It is about the sincerity behind those promises you churn out. It was not the National Democratic Congress government led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that introduced E-levy.
Right.
Neither was it introduced by, what was the name, the other tax, betting tax, introduced by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Same can be said with the emissions levy. That wasn't introduced by him. It was introduced by the NPP administration, confidently manned at the time by the likes of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahama Orders. Remember, Dr. Mahama Orders, who happens to be the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party in the just ended election, was also the chairman of the economic management team of that particular administration. So clearly, these were the people who introduced these taxes. And so to be approaching election and sought to beat a U-turn, that when given the mandate, you will scrap the very taxes you promised, was clearly hypocritical. And to a very large extent, there was no commitment, political commitment to that particular promise, because they had what it took then to scrap those taxes. They were adamant. We promised that we were going to take down those taxes in a matter of 90 days. And you can tell with absolute excitement that we have fulfilled that particular campaign promise. And that is why many of us argued at the time that we are not just dealing with a leader coming to do try me syndrome. We're dealing with a leader with remarkable experience, especially when it comes to the economy of this country, and to a very large extent, to a very large extent, the campaign promises and how committed we are as politicians to those campaign promises, because he's had that experience. And for me, that was instrumental. So we have no justification now to take for granted the mandate that was given His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, overwhelming mandate at that. The least we can do at this stage is to show commitment in fulfilling those promises. And you see, the exciting thing also about it is that this all feeds into the narrative of resetting our economy.
Okay.
We argued in opposition that the E-levy and many of these taxes had the unwarranted effect of stifling businesses, to a very large extent, local businesses. So if you are able to take out these taxes, you are giving them an opportunity to reinvest whatever they would have paid annually as taxes as a result of these transactions into their companies. And if they reinvest, there's the potential that the companies would grow. Growth comes employment opportunities for teeming numbers of our youth out there who are currently unemployed. So these are some of the avenues you create. Also, you are having to deal with an electronic sector that needs government's intervention to even expand more so that we can generate the needed revenue from that sector.
Right.
You don't stifle it with taxes. That is why we have decided to take out those taxes, to give it that opportunity to expand, so that at least government revenue as a result of value-added tax can still continue to grow within those sectors. So when you look at our policies are not just targeted at providing short-term relief to Ghanaians, but it is also connected to our overall objective of expanding the frontiers of our economy to create job opportunities for teeming numbers of our youth out there who are unemployed.
Well, let me also remind viewers that in the course of the show, we'll be joined on phone by Reverend John Kodjo, who is the Member of Parliament for Assents South. He's also the ranking on the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament. But I still have Hamza in studio here with me. So for you, this is a demonstration of this administration's commitment to resetting Ghana and making the lives of people better.
Absolutely. And you see, for us, we have no opportune time than now to do so.
Okay.
This is the time that we have the undoubted confidence of the good people of this country. We were faced with enormous challenges between 2014 to 2016 when His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama came for his first time. There were so many lessons we learned as a result of that experience, even in opposition. And I'm sure those lessons were not just tied to the National Democratic Congress and President Mahama alone. Ghanaians also had a bitter share of those lessons because they thought that we were not performing and decided to bring in a government that took us to levels below abysmal in terms of performance. Because you can tell the kind of economy they left behind. So for you to be able to reset the economy, there's the need for you to generate confidence so that the Ghanaian people would give you the needed support on that journey.
Right.
And one fundamental way of ensuring that confidence is fulfilling campaign promises you made to the good people of this country when you were Ghanaian for president. And so it was not for nothing. Out of our campaign promises or our manifesto promises, we also singled out about 26 promises we intended to implement within the first 120 days of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's presidency. The overall intention is to be able to implement these policies so that the Ghanaian people would begin to have confidence once again in the political class and give us the necessary support to be able to reset this country. You all know that the economy that was handed over to us was a complete mess. And quite apart from being in a mess, it was rendered as an illegal mining site where political appointees of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahama Orders engaged daily in the illegal mining of our meager public resources. That led this country to a state of bankruptcy. There's the need for us to reset that.
Okay.
There's the need for us to once again put this nation back on a sustainable path of recovery and subsequently economic development. Sacrifices would need to be made. Government appreciates that. And that is why government once again has decided to lead that discourse by cutting down government expenditure and trying to control waste, to give that confidence to the Ghanaian people that this is a government that means business. Okay. And this is a government that is sacrificing a lot. This is the government that is trying to bring down the burden of governance on the Ghanaian people, minimize its effects on the Ghanaian people. And so the least we can do as citizens of this country is to be more than willing to support such a government to deliver in our quest to reset our economy.
Interesting. And so, yes, clearly with regards to this particular promise, it set the country excited. A lot of people are excited about it. But I'm sure you've also heard Reverend John Kodjo and the comments that he's made surrounding intelligence that has come to his attention on flights, suspicious flights, he said, that have made their way into the country. And I'm sure that you've also heard that at the end of the day, it is said that, well, it's shocking that we are seeing this happen under this administration just 3 months into your governance. He talks about alleged drug trafficking, money laundering, among others. Well, what do you know about that?
First of all, I think that as leaders of this country, we are expected to reflect some level of responsibility. And our constitution charges us to, at every step of the way, privilege national interests over and beyond partisan interests. Sadly, that seems not to be the case here. On a daily basis at the Kotoka International Airport, we have so many flights that come in and go out. So if you have tracked flights that seem to have come in under suspicious circumstances. And as a responsible member of parliament that he ought to be, and not just a reverend, but as a responsible member of parliament, one would have required or one would have expected the said MP to have done the most honorable thing.
It should be
by first of all getting in touch with our national security apparatus or our security agencies. The doors to the Minister of Interior is not closed on him. The doors to the National Security Coordinator are open. As a member of parliament, he can have access. So if you have been given what you call intel about flights that come in and went out, without actionable evidence that these are flights that were carrying cocaine or illicit substances, the most responsible thing to do in the interest of the Republic is simply to use these internal channels to get more information about those flights. But to organize a press conference simply based on intel that you have refused, intel you are not in a position to confirm, and throw out such serious allegations, you are not only attacking the image of the National Democratic Congress that seems to be in power now, you are jeopardizing the international reputation of the Republic of Ghana, which has unintended consequences even on you as a member of parliament, because Ghana is not operating as a silo state. We are part of the International Committee of Nations, and so our international reputation is critical. If it is badly injured based on baseless allegations.
You call those allegations baseless?
They are baseless.
Because he says he has the intel to suggest.
And that is why I'm
same.
telling you that even if you go to Flight Radar today, this morning, you can track all flights that came in and outside the country within the last 1 week or even a month. You can track all those flights. And so if you believe that there are certain questions to answer in relation to those flights, or one of them, the responsible thing to do is to activate our intelligence agencies. You are a member of parliament, write to them, work to them. I am sure that if it had to do with a personal contract that the Reverend was chasing, he would have found ways of reaching out to the Minister of Interior, who also doubles as National Security Minister.
So what do you suspect is the underlying factor for all of this? Because at the end of the day, he's also saying that this is in line with transparency and being accountable to the people of Ghana. I don't have a problem
with that being in line with transparency. That is why I'm telling you that it can still be in line with transparency if you use the important internal channels that we have.
Right.
Because you see, it is not just about the NDC. We are dealing with our international reputation. And even as a member of parliament, he risks being stopped at any of our international airports. He risks being stopped because Ghana would have been flagged. So he's not damaging the reputation of Ghana alone. But if it is actionable intel you have, that national security has investigated and they are adamant to come out with the facts, you can then proceed to organize a press conference and allege that, look, on this date, I made this intel available to the national security and requested that they investigate further. They have not done so, and based on the content of intel I had, some flights got into the country on this date. They were suspected to be carrying A, B, C, and D. There and then, we wouldn't be in a position to raise these concerns that we are raising. But you see, he should be fortunate that His Excellency President Mahama is president today. We are not dealing with a hot-headed leader. We are dealing with a calm, collected, responsive leader. And that is why it is important for us to even appreciate the way President Mahama responded to that charge. Being a statesman, he knew the implications of that press conference the Honorable MP, or ought to be Honorable MP, did. That is why it didn't take long for the President himself, not his Minister of Government Communications, not the Attorney General, not the National Security Coordinator, but His Excellency the President. That should tell you the severity of those allegations and its implications on our international image. That is why it had to take His Excellency the President to respond. Unlike what happened in the past when issues were raised, His Excellency President has not said that the security agency should arrest the Honorable MP. If you look at his statement, carefully worded, he said he is directing the security agencies to collaborate with the MP so that we can get to the bottom of these allegations.
Yeah.
And the same MP was quick to rush into the media. That they don't need to come to him, they should go and invest the international reputation of this country to ridicule. The international reputation of this country to ridicule and question by our multilateral partners and to a very large extent other states.